Hi friends, I'm Scott Giles and welcome to Saturday at 2:30. That is, every Saturday afternoon at 2:30, I shoot a 5 or 10 minute video podcast like this here on Facebook, later putting it up on my YouTube channel on some aspect of life coaching or the hypnotic arts and sciences. Today I want to talk about dissolution in the sense of how to make your problems dissolve. Now, to begin, I want to talk to you about ancient Mesopotamia. Now, that probably is not where you were expecting me to go with this, but I'm a religious scholar with an interest in anthropology, so deal with it. In ancient Mesopotamia, about the 18th century before the Common Era, the dominant religious cult was the worship of a series of gods championed by Marduk. And in the creation legend, Marduk fought a fundamental battle with Tiamat, a dragon-like creature of chaos. And Marduk killed Tiamat and tore her to shreds. And from the pieces of Tiamat, Marduk created the world. That's the legend. Fundamentally dissolving a problem and using the pieces to establish creation. Now, first thing I want to point out here is that my topic today on dissolution is not original to me. I want to give a shout out to writer Carroll, the founder of the bullet journal method, because this comes from an essay that he wrote, which I've elaborated on a bit here, but I like the theme so much I wanted to share it. Now, just as Marduk deconstructed Tiamat by ripping her apart, there are other things that are often done with the same theme of deconstruction. For example, in culinary work, and I'm a former chef, often elaborate classical recipes are deconstructed, broken into their component parts, and each part treated differently and then served independently of the others. And this has become the great new style of how to have a high-end meal. So deconstruction is a big deal, but it can be applied to our inner world as well. Now, Carroll points out that human beings tend to overthink and to exaggerate the severity of their problems. The problems that we have actually create kind of a hallucination, and we hypnotists know all about hallucination. Problems have an hallucinogenic quality, and that quality is they convince us, or they try to convince us, that they will hang around forever. The reality is that neither you nor I have ever had a problem that lasted. We found a way to fix it or move beyond it somehow or accommodate to it somehow, but they don't remain an active problem. So how do we break through this tendency to overthink and exaggerate our problems? And the answer is we deconstruct it. And we do what Marduk did to Tiamat. We take it apart and then make something of the pieces. So in writer Carroll's book, The Bullet Journal, he talks about the 5 whys of Sokati Toyoda, the founder of Toyota in Japan. And what this man thought is that if you were facing a problem, ask yourself why you have the problem 5 times. Each time going to another more fundamental logical layer of what the problem is about. So here's an example, and this again comes from writer Carroll. He wrote, "I can't pay my rent." Well, why can't you pay your rent? Well, I don't have money. Okay. Why don't you have money? Well, because the rent is too high. Why is the rent too high? Well, because this apartment's in a nice area. And why is this apartment that you're renting in a nice area? Because I like living there. And why do you like living there? Well, because the neighborhood has nice people, it's in good shape, there are nice restaurants and shops, it makes me feel safer. Now, having analyzed this problem, I can't pay my rent, into 5 layers by asking the 5 whys, we notice that the problem is not really about money at all. The problem is really about feelings of safety and enjoyment. The problem has been deconstructed. The dragon has been torn apart. So now we can deal independently with each of those 5 issues. I don't have money. Well, what's the solution for that? I could ask for a raise. I could get a second job. I could go get a better job. I could take in a roommate. I could take a course at community college and increase my value to my employer. So that's something I can do about that first layer. And so on and so on and so on. And ultimately, as you work through all of these, you decide, well, there are things you can do. I mean, are there other neighborhoods you could feel safe in? Is there something you can do about a different neighborhood that would also make you feel safe? A security system, a gated or a doorman at the building. If you like living where there are nice restaurants and shops, maybe a short bus ride is not out of the question, and you could live somewhere where a short bus ride would get you there, but the money would be less extravagant or less expensive. So by asking the 5 whys, we see that the problem isn't that you don't have money, but that you have an expectation about safety and security. And that expectation can be met in a couple of different ways. So we take the dragon apart, and a way forward is seen. Now, let me give you an example from my personal life. I started out as a parish minister. I had a 13-year career as a parish minister, serving 2 churches, a small one in New York and a much larger one in Illinois. And I was decent at it. The congregation said they were sorry to see me go. The churches all prospered under my ministry, but I wasn't happy. And so I think most people don't realize that it's hard to be a minister. Everyone in the congregation thinks they're your boss. If someone wants to bully or manipulate you, there are lots of opportunities to do that in a congregational system. Ministers tend to be plagued by anxiety, depression, obesity, self-destructive behavior, to the point where it's almost used to be, now with the Affordable Care Act, it's better, but used to be, you almost could never get insurance. Health insurance did not want to insure members of the clergy because we had so many behavioral problems that would drink up money or cause behaviors that became medical problems that would also drink up money. So my 5 whys. Why am I unhappy as a parish minister? Well, I work in nonprofits, and typically in a nonprofit organization, especially a smaller one, leaders do not stop bullies, nor do they especially treat staff well. Why is that? Well, because people don't go to churches or other nonprofit charities because they want to increase the level of hassle in their life. They want to get some meaning out of it, but they don't want to hassle. And if you got someone in a church who's acting out or being unreasonable or whose behavior is over the top, the other people are hesitant to do anything about that because that's not why they're there. They don't want the hassle. Well, why is that? Because churches and other organizations are dependent on donations, and they can't afford to push people away. Why is that? Well, because congregation and charitable life in America has taken what may prove to be a wrong turn. The least cooperative people in the organization these days have all the power. All they have to do is refuse to cooperate, refuse to play nice, refuse to be fair, and they get an outside impact because no one stops them. So why is that? Well, because charitable organizations today, especially smaller ones, are like a body without an immune system. When something starts going wrong, nothing intervenes to fix that before it becomes a major problem. And that's why ministers in churches are in such a bad position. So now that I had those 5 whys, now that I had taken the dragon apart into those pieces, I could begin to see ways of dealing with this. Well, I didn't want to work for other people, especially I didn't want a situation where I had 400 people thinking they were all my boss. So I could work for myself. I could control that. Well, churches tend to be running on financial fumes and they don't pay their staff very well. But there is another kind of ministry besides parish ministry, community ministry, where you render services outside of the walls of the congregation and people pay you directly for them. And either they regard you as a valuable resource they're prepared to pay for, or they just ignore you and leave you alone. There are many fewer hassles. And I realized that, no, I could have my own religious corporation that would allow me to decide how I was treated, how much I had to work. And if someone doesn't treat me well, I could tell them to go away, and they had to. They couldn't show up at a meeting and vote to cut my vacation. So with the 5 whys, I realized the problem was my happiness could be messed with by a great many other people, some of whom were just nasty people, and no one would stop them. So I had to take responsibility for putting myself in a circumstance where that couldn't happen. So what skills did I have that would let me do this? Well, I was always something of a healer. I always liked hypnotism. People will pay hypnotists if he or she is a good practitioner. So now there was something I could do. I could kick up my training. I could go mentor with the best people. And now the dragon is in tatters. And my way forward was clear. And that's exactly what I did. I increased my training. I apprenticed myself. I mentored with 2 foremost practitioners. Yeah, it was expensive. They charged me top dollar, but I considered myself lucky to sit at their feet and learn from the best. And I took on debt to do that, but I was successful and I paid all that debt off. So as soon as I asked my 5 whys, why am I unhappy, but 4 more layers, I realized why I wasn't happy. It wasn't that I was unhappy being a member of the clergy. I was unhappy being a member of the clergy in that kind of abusive environment. And there was something I could do about that. So now you see the power of dissolution, of doing what Marduk did to Tiamat. Take the dragon apart and make something of the pieces. And Stakai Toyoda is the way is the person who shows the method, the 5 whys. Ask yourself why you have a problem 5 times, each time refining that question about why. And you're going to end up with a list of things that you can, in fact, do something about. And if you tackle them that way, if not all of them, some of them, you're going to end up in a better place. And like Marduk, you become the artist of a new creation. So that's the power of dissolution. Hey, thank you for your attention. I will be back next Saturday at 2:30 with another talk about a different topic. I haven't decided what yet, but I'll come up with something good, I promise you. As always, if I can be helpful to you, please feel free to reach out and consult my services. Take a look at my website. If you're watching this video on my YouTube channel, please subscribe and like. And if you're catching it on Facebook, please like and share. We do have a Patreon channel for those who want a deeper experience and more edgy about my work. So take a look, do well, and stay safe.